Hey, what's up, guys? This is Ryan Toby, singer, songwriter, actor. You may remember me from the movie Sister Act 2. I played the character of Ahmal. Oh, happy day. Yeah. And today on Podstalgic, I'm going to be talking about my experience in the movie, giving you some fun facts, some interesting stories, and just talking about my life, my career, where I've been, and where I'm going. So tune in, and let's have a good time.
Hello, Mr. Toby. It's Peter.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good. How's it going?
Not too bad. First off, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you. I'm excited.
So I want to kind of get started with, well, first off, I see that you kind of grew up in New Jersey, and then you flew to L.A. You know, your manager, I believe, got in touch with Kenny Ortiz, and that eventually led to a meeting with Disney.
Yeah, something like that. So my manager, my first manager, his name was Marvin Thompson. He's from my hometown. Well, actually, he's from New York, but he was living, lived for quite a while in the same hometown as me, Willingboro, New Jersey. I knew his son very well. We were like, he was a little younger than me, but we were just, neighborhood friends and stuff. And he knew that I could sing. And so he said, man, you should sing for my dad. My dad has some connections in the music business, stuff like that. And so I sang for his father, Marvin, sang for Marvin, and Marvin loved my voice and started taking me to studios, sessions, and taking me to, back then, the way you got discovered was like a talent shows, talent contests. I sang at the Apollo about 5 times at Showtime at the Apollo and the amateur night. I would be a special guest. And through just making our rounds with that, we also we got in contact with a lady named Bobby Humphrey. She was a jazz flautist for quite some time, legendary jazz flautist, and she partnered up with Marvin and began, taking us to some of her contacts in the business. And one of them was Kenny Ortiz, who worked at RCA Records at the time. He was a top-level executive A&R at RCA Records at the time. He discovered the girl group SWV. Mm-hmm. He discovered Pharrell and the Neptunes, and countless others. And so I went and I sang for Kenny. Kenny loved my voice, but he felt like I was still, underdeveloped and I still needed some development. I was only about 14, 15 at the time. And so Kenny had me recording demos. He put me in the studio, working with different, writers and producers at the time. Actually, one of my first demos that I recorded, one of my first songs was written by the artist Joe.
Oh, okay.
This was back before he even came. I remember meeting him. He's like, hi, my name is Joe. He's like, I got an album coming out later this year. And I'm like, oh, and then it's hilarious. It's like, wow. I just saw Joe, too, in the mall out here in L.A. not too long ago. And I was just thinking, like, wow, you wrote my first, my little demo tape. Like, you wrote the songs. And then, but, later on that year, sure enough, he came out and he was like this big artist. But, so during the time of Kenny sort of developing me, I remember he called my manager and Bobby Humphrey, and I guess he found out, I don't know if Disney reached out to him. I don't know if there was some type of connection to, music business or what, but Disney and Touchstone were looking for kids that could, sing and dance and act and stuff to be in, Sister Act 2. And so he was like, man, you should go to this audition. I didn't have an agent. I had never even been on an audition before. I wasn't like one of those kids that grew up with the stage mom taking them to auditions and stuff. That wasn't me.
Right.
I was just, regular little kid, singing in church choirs and singing in, high school plays and stuff like that. So I had never been on no real auditions. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have any, professional training or anything like that. As a matter of fact, that Sister Act audition was the first audition I ever went on, believe it or not, and I booked it. Like, what are the odds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that was the first thing I ever went on. If I'm not mistaken, Lauryn Hill, I think the story is that Lauryn she came to the audition with her friend. Her friend was auditioning. And Lauren was just sitting in the lobby waiting for her friend. And when they came out and they said, "Oh, okay, next. Are you next? Are you auditioning?" She said, "Oh, no, I'm just waiting for my friend." And they said, "Oh, you want to audition? Can you sing?" She was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Can you dance?" She was like, "Yeah." They were like, "You want to try out? You want to audition?" She was like, "Okay." And she booked it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Wow.
Another little funny story like that. I worked with Ruben Studdard back a few years back, and I remember Ruben telling me the story of how his friends were auditioning for American Idol. He was just the ride. He was the guy with the car. So he drove from Birmingham, Alabama. The auditions were in Nashville, you know what I mean? Like 8 hours away or whatever. So he was just the dude with the car. So he drove his friends up, and he was just waiting in line with his friends. And, when they were passing out the numbers, like everybody take a number, he just took a number. And they were like, "Well, you're here. You might as well audition with us." He's like, "All right, cool, whatever." And he won the whole thing.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's funny how that happens sometimes.
It's crazy. It's crazy how that happens, man. And, I try to tell, young artists all the time when they, what should I do? What's the key to success? What can you tell me? What can I do to make it? It's like, man, how much of this is just built off pure luck and timing,
Right.
And I tell them those stories, the Ruben Studdard story, the Lauryn Hill story, and even my own, just to let them know, like, man, it's really, there isn't one way. There isn't a 3-step, guide. People make a lot of money selling 12-step programs, but, just follow my 12 steps and you too. Like, come on, man. Like, there was a lot of luck involved. There was a lot of just timing. You just happened to, you made a left instead of a right that day. You know what I mean? All kinds of things. So anyway, so I did audition for the movie. So I went to the first audition. It was in New York, and real interesting story about that. So we get to the audition, and somehow or another, Bobby and Kenny got me on the list. They got me on the list to be able to audition without an agent or anything, right? All these other kids are in there. They got agents. They're in the, it's like something you would see out of, in a movie, they're stretching, they're doing ballet, they're like they're doing it's the whole thing, right?
Uh-huh.
And then there's me, right? And they're going over their lines and they're reading their lines. And I never would. And Mama, say it ain't so. Like they're going over their lines and shit, yo. So it's like, it was like something like out of a straight movie, right? So I'm thinking like, what the heck am I doing here? I don't know what I'm doing. So my manager, he was in Bobby, and they're like, "Listen, Ryan, okay, so when you go in there, okay, they're probably gonna, they're gonna ask you to sing. You're probably gonna have to read a couple of lines. I did have some sides to learn, so a couple of lines to read. They were just some generic dialogue or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I learned that. So they were like, you're gonna read the little script. You're gonna, sing a little bit. And they said, and don't be surprised if they're very cold. If they're kind of like, okay, thank you, next. They were like, don't feel bad. That's just how the business is. I was like, okay, all right, cool. So they called my name. I go in there, and it's just me and this lady who's running the she's running the camera. She's filming. So she calls me in. She's adjusting the camera. She's like, okay, come in, stand on the mark over there. All right, name, Ryan Toby. Like, it was very, right? She's super kind of cold, right? So she goes, okay, what part are you reading for? I tell her. She's like, all right. And so we do the lines. So she says the lines with me. I do my little lines, whatever. She says, okay, you got a song you want to sing? So I'm like, yep. So I sang this song called I Feel Like Going On, which is just like a gospel traditional song I would sing in church all the time. So I just sang the song I would sing in church all the time. You know what I mean? The song my mom would make me stand up and sing in church.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm not lying, bro. This woman stops the camera. She takes her glasses off, and she starts weeping, crying. And I'm looking at her, and she starts crying. And she comes from around the tripod, turns the camera off. She comes around, and she walks up to me. She says, that voice, I just gotta hug that voice. And she wraps her arms around me and hugs me, squeezes me, crying, dog. I'm standing there, looks like, this isn't what they said the audition was gonna be. You know what I mean? I'm thinking it's gonna be the total opposite, right? Everybody's prepping me like, look, they're really cold. You know, they're gonna be like, don't call us, we'll call you. You know what I'm saying? Completely different. Yo, dog, it was a whole nother experience.
Were you like, so is this a good thing? Did I get a part or?
right, exactly. I'm like, is this how auditions go? So that was the first audition. So then I got a call back, you know, same thing. So I think I might have went to about 7 callbacks in New York.
Okay.
And then the final callback, I think the 8th and final callback was, it was down to just me and this one other guy named Chaz. We're actually really good friends to this day. But yeah, it was down to me and him. And we flew to LA and met with the producers and the you know, the director and the writer, and that's when I met Bill Duke and all that. And it came down to the final audition. And it's interesting, my role in the film, originally I was auditioning because they were looking for kids for the ensemble cast, like to be in the choir, that could sing and dance in the choir. So that's what I was auditioning for. That's why the lines I was reading were just some generic lines. But they ended up creating that whole role for me. Like, they were like, they made a role for me. That role wasn't in the script.
Wow, the role of Ahmal.
The role of Ahmal, the big "Oh Happy Day" scene, all of that. None of that was they created that for me.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And it's just an interesting thing, man. You know, once again, going back to, you know, when I advise young artists about, man, there is no one way. You just kind of got to be open. It's interesting because I wasn't trying to be an actor. I was trying to get a record deal. I wanted to be Tevin Campbell. You know what I'm saying? So I was trying to get a record deal, and I booked a movie, and then I book a movie where I'm auditioning for a background part, and they write me a lead. And I tell people all the time, it's like I wasn't in a bunch of movies. I was just in the one movie that never stopped playing.
Yeah.
Like, here we are coming up on 25 years later, and Sister Act is a cult classic. You know what I mean? 25 years, man. People come up to me all the time, like, I grew up watching that movie. I learned how to sing because I work with artists. I'm a songwriter, producer, so I'm always working with artists. I'm always working with new young artists and new young talent. And it's like I learned how to sing watching that part. Like, we used to sing that in my church, or, you know, we did that play in my high school and did Sister Act, and I always sang your part. And I'm just like, wow, something that I wasn't even looking for, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's got to be surreal, too, to be in a movie that is so, like, prominent in a lot of people's youths. You know, they look to movies like this or like Mighty Ducks, you know, because, like, on screen, the classroom kids, it was very diverse. So a lot of kids can relate because there's a lot of kids in there that look like them.
Yep. Very true. I was just talking to this artist, Luke James, really, really talented. He was just in the New Edition movie. He played Johnny Gill in the New Edition movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I knew that name sounded familiar.
Yep. So I'm working on his new album. And he was here at my house, at my studio, and it was a bunch of us talking about Sister Act, right? And I just said, man, you know, it's something about, I mean, even here 25 years later, it's like when kids see kids, like you said, that look like them, talk like them, dance like that, you know what I mean? And Sister Act too, like the first Sister Act was, I hate to say it, but it's like, that was for like white moms. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like Whoopi came in and made like white moms cool.
Right.
You know? But the second Sister Act was like hip hop. Like the second Sister Act was all hip. It was super urban. You know what I'm saying? So even though the first Sister Act did enormously well in the box office, at like 230 million. Second Sister Act didn't kill in the box office. It only did about 50 million in the box office. But the Second Sister Act really became a cult classic in young urban, with young kids.
Right.
Young urban kids. So it is very surreal, man. And how about on last Friday, Hollywood High School, the Performing Arts High School here in LA, they did a production of Sister Act, the musical, like the musical one on Broadway. Mm-hmm. So they did a production of that, and they invited me as a special guest to come watch the show and then go backstage and, talk to the kids, talk to the cast, do some Q&A and take pictures. And I was just, these kids they're in high school. I mean, bro, I have a daughter, 18, you know what I mean? My daughter's going to be 18 in July. And these kids are 16 and, they like, oh my God, like you. And I'm thinking like, yo, it's just like we made this movie 25 years ago. Even when I told them, I was like, yeah, that was 25 years. They're like, what? They can't believe it. And so for me, for it to still be a thing, like it's still a thing, man. I can't get away from it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I got a son that's about to turn 17. He's a junior right now, third year in choir. This is also one of his favorites.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, man. It was lightning in a bottle, man. It was a blessing. I didn't know what I was. That was my first time in Hollywood. My first real exposure to the business. My first film. I mean, I was so young and green and just, happy to be there. How about, fun fact people don't know. So in the Joyful, Joyful song, in the big finale, there's a part, Joyful, Joyful, Lord, we adore thee. Mm-hmm. In the middle of the song, it breaks down to a rap. And, Joyful, Joyful, Lord, we adore thee. And in my life, I put none before. How about, I wrote that rap, bro.
Yeah, I read that, actually. That was one of the fun facts.
On a napkin at rehearsal. Like, not even thinking about it. Like, we were in rehearsal, and we were breaking for lunch or whatever. We were having a break. And the kid, Ron, who actually rapped the part,
Sketch,
he was
right?
in like, Sketch. He was in like one of the side break rooms. We're at the rehearsal studio. So he was like in one of the side break rooms. So I just, I'm wandering around. I went looking for him. And I come in the room, and he had the track playing, and he was trying to come up with something. I was like, what you doing? And he was like, oh, man, they want me to write a rap to say in the middle of the song. And I was like, oh, what you got? And he kind of said something. I was like, nah, you should say something like this. I lied to you not, dog. I freestyled the whole thing. I said the whole thing. Joyful, joyful, Lord, we adore thee. And in my life, I put none before thee. Since I was a youngster, I was like a rapping machine back then.
Yeah.
So, like, I just spit the whole rap to him, and he was like, that's crazy, write that down. I wrote it on a napkin and walked out the room. Didn't even think anything of it. Later that week, I think, my attorney called me. So my attorney knew, this was my first time in LA, so he would call, check on me, how they treating you, good, are you having fun, is everything okay, are you getting your per diem, blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, yeah, everything's great. I was like, I wrote this rap that they're gonna use in the movie. He was like, what? Hold on, you did what? And I was like, yeah, I wrote this rap they're gonna use in the movie. He was like, let me call you right back. And he called me back about an hour later, like, Ryan, let me explain something to you about something called publishing. I'm like, publishing? What's that? Like, yeah, when you write something and they use it in a movie or a film or it comes on the radio, like, you get paid every time it plays. I'm like, huh? Mm. So, bro, I've been eating off of that publishing because it's one thing to have publishing, on the soundtrack. A soundtrack will stop selling. But the fact that I had publishing in the film, so every time the film plays on TV, every time for the last 25 years, yeah, bro.
Nice.
And I even got that out of the deal, too. This is all... when you even hear it, sometimes I tell this story a million times, but like I'm sitting here now, like, wow, like what the hell was that? Like it was like God was really just looking out for this little black boy.
Yeah, yeah. Like, everything just fell into place for you.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It was an amazing experience. Whoopi was an amazing. She was so real. I mean, another interesting story people don't know. So the last week of filming, we're supposed to wrap. We're shooting the big joyful finale scene. We're shooting that scene, and we're gonna wrap. We're gonna be done on Friday. So over that weekend, the kid that his name is Chaz. He went on to do a lot of stuff. He acted in a lot of TV shows. He was on Moesha. He was in a lot of movies. He was in Nutty Professor. Chaz has been my boy for years. So he, even though he didn't book the Sister Act thing, he booked another gig. So he stayed in L.A. He's from Philly.
Okay.
So he stayed in L.A. working on this sitcom with Sinbad at the time. Sinbad had this sitcom. And Chaz was on the show, so we stayed friends. And while he was shooting that during the daytime, I'd be doing Sister Act stuff, and then we would hang out. We were 15 years old, so we would hang out. And him and Lauren, we would hang out a lot. So the weekend before final week of shooting, we were in Lauren's car, the rental car. You know what I mean? Now Lauren had a license. Neither me or Chaz had a license. So we would just drive around the park. Like, we didn't have nothing to do. Like, we act during the day. We'd go to, get with the tutor, and then we're back home at the apartment. We'd swim, or we'd just hang out at the apartment. So Chaz was like, let me drive. So Lauren was like, you don't know how to drive? It's like, just let me drive. Let me drive a little bit. I promise I won't crash or whatever. So she lets him drive. So I had got out the car. So I'm trying to tell him how to back up. Like, no, you got to back up there. So then at one point, I come to the passenger side window. The window was rolled down, and I kind of just being a stupid kid, kind of jump in the window. So my legs are dangling out the window. So he hits the gas real fast and jerks the car. I don't know, he went some kind of way, jerked the car. I fell out the car, under the car, and this dude rolled the car up on my ankle. Okay? Yes. So I'm like, So Lauren's like, oh my God, go forward. So he puts the car in gear and then hits the gas so the car burns out on my ankle. I was like, yeah, dog. Ambulance had to come. I go to the hospital. So the last week of shooting, I show up on crutches with a brace on my ankle, bro.
Yeah.
Bill Duke was on fire.
Oh, man, I bet.
The whole crew is on fire. What do you mean you can't dance in the final scene? And I got the lead. I'm singing, joyful, oh God. I got a big part.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to be dancing, and we learned all this damn choreography. It's the big final scene. Dog, oh, man. You talk about, woo. They were mad at me. But the whole point of this story, going back to Whoopi and how dope Whoopi was, Whoopi pulls me to the side and she says, listen, I don't care what they say. I don't care, don't you let them treat you like a piece of meat. If you hurt yourself, you hurt yourself. If we got to push production back another week or two until you're better, then so fucking what? Whoopi had my back. Because they were bro, they brought in sports therapy, the type of therapist that get a football player back in the game. Mm-hmm. He's you know what I'm saying, cracks his ankle and he goes off to the sideline. The therapist that wraps him up and gives him a shot of dope and gets him back out in the game.
Yeah.
They brought in professional sports therapists. No, he's gonna dance. They wrapped me up with this some kind of brace with the ice and the whole you're gonna dance. And Whoopi was not feeling that. So if you notice in the last scene, in that joyful scene, on some of the angles, some of the cuts, I'm dancing next to Lauren, and then the edit will cut to another, and I'm not there.
Oh, okay.
Because I couldn't be on my ankle for too long. You know what I mean? So they would get some of me dancing, and then I would have to go sit down. But they had to keep going because they were trying to stay to their schedule because it costs more money to have to shoot another 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Whoopi even had them. She was the best. She made them come up with an alternate ending. So there was an alternate ending where my character Ahmal sprains his ankle at the last. Like he's coming down the stairs, and Whoopi, when the girl goes, okay, Sister Mary Clarence said, take your robes off, come on, and we're taking our robes off, and we're all running down the steps to go to the stage, and my character falls. Oh my God, I sprained my ankle. I can't go on. And then so they go on without me, but then miraculously I come out on crutches and I sing anyway. There was like this whole other ending.
Oh, wow.
Do you know how much money that must have cost to shoot a whole other fucking ending, dog?
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, and then, but they scrapped it. They were like, no, we're not going with that. But Whoopi, the whole time, she had my back. She was fighting for me.
I'm actually glad that they didn't go with that ending, because that reminds me a lot of, what is it, Leap of Faith with Steve Martin? Did you ever see that one? Yeah, the same thing happens. This kid who's been on crutches the entire time, at the very end, miraculously is able to walk again.
Oh, wow.
So good thing they didn't go with that ending, because would have been a very similar... Yeah. But hey, I think we all love the ending the way it is now.
Yeah, I'm glad it turned out the way it did. But yeah, if you watch closely now, when you watch it again, you'll see it'll be like, I'm next to Lauren. I'm not next to Lauren. I'm next to Lauren.
Yeah. I'll definitely have to check that out. I own it myself. So, since you guys were mostly teenagers, what was it like? Were there clicks? What did you guys do when the camera wasn't rolling?
Well, most of the time, let me see, clicks. No, not clicks. Me and Lauren got really, really close because we were both from Jersey, and she lived the apartment, because they had us staying at the Oakwood Apartments in Burbank. So she lived in the apartment directly beneath mine. So, or was it above mine? I can't remember either. I lived on the bottom floor and she lived on the top. Or I can't remember. But so she and I got really, really tight. We became really, really close friends during that time. We stuck together because we were both from Jersey. I think that was both of our first time, I think, in LA, really. And she was 2 years older than me. Plus I had the super stupid crush on her. You know what I'm saying?
She's quite something.
But Lauren was probably the first girl I ever that's when I felt when it's like, oh my God, this is what love feels like. I was in love with Lauryn Hill.
I think a lot of us were.
But and she was. Other than that, there wasn't a lot of clicks. And then what we were doing, we would rap and sing a lot. There was a lot of rapping and singing, and it was funny because back then Lauren, she was talking about this group she had called the Refugees, with some guy with this weird name named Wyclef. You know what I'm saying? She used to talk about that all the time. But Lauren, she couldn't really rap that well back then. I remember she used to say these same two rhymes all the time. When we would all just kind of be in a circle and just freestyling and battling and rapping and stuff, Lauren would say the same two raps. And then so to watch how she just turned into one of the best rappers of all time, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was crazy. That was wild to me. That was really wild to me.
Were any of those the ones that she rapped in the school courtyard scene?
School courtyard scene.
It's the scene where Whoopi comes to kind of break it up, and Whoopi kind of does her own little rap as well.
Oh, yeah.
I think I read that Lauren improvised it.
Yeah. It might have been. It may have been. Yeah, may have been.
Yeah, that's some.
Wow, I forgot about that scene. Dang, that just brought back a lot of memories.
Yeah. Anything worth sharing there?
What about that time, that scene?
Yeah.
Well, I just remember it. Dang, that's crazy. It just a lot of good feelings just came over me. I think it was because we shot that particular scene in San Francisco.
Uh-huh.
So we shot the movie in L.A. and Frisco. So we shot that scene in San Francisco. And I remember, so Lauren, you know, because she was filming April, May, June, they wouldn't allow her to fly back for her graduation to Jersey to graduate high school because, you know, she was working. And she tried to work it out. And even Whoopi Whoopi was trying to work that out with the you know, a movie studio and stuff. And they just were like, no, you know, we gotta get this done. So Whoopi had the idea to throw a graduation for Lauren.
Oh, nice.
A surprise graduation. So, yeah, so she bought a bunch of caps and gowns, you know what I mean? And then we held like a ceremony right there on that court, and then the graduation music played, and Whoopi said some words, and we gave Lauren a graduation.
That's amazing.
You know, we all threw our caps in the air. That was like really cool. That's what I remember about that.
Yeah. Let's talk about before we wrap up here. Let's talk about some of your new work here. Recently, you released the single "Icarus."
Yes.
And this is for an upcoming album.
You know what? I'm a little undecided. So what I told myself was, because I've been in the business so long, I've been acting stuff. I've written for people. I was in City High. I've been nominated for Grammys. I've toured. I've done so much, and the business has changed so much, and so I'm like, okay, well, where am I at now? And I turned 40 last November, so I turned 40 and also celebrated 25 years in the business.
Wow, congratulations!
So I'm like, you know, just 2 major milestones. Thank you. So I was just like, you know, what do I want to do? You know, what have I learned? What do I want to do for the next 20 years? You know what I mean? And with the business being the way it is, with the internet and all this stuff, I was like, and I'm watching how these kids now are just like promoting their own music, the Chance the Rappers, and these guys that are doing big things independently and just like putting your stuff online and all of that. I was like, maybe I should try my hand at that, you know, and really not even take it too serious, just really kind of just start releasing some singles. Like I didn't even want to put the pressure on myself of, oh, I'm trying to make this album and all, you know, because sometimes that could come with a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. The beauty of the internet is you can literally just release singles. I mean, shoot, people only buy the songs they like anyway.
Right, they're gonna do.
they make their own playlists anyway. So I was like, you know what? It's not even like how it used to be where, you know, you're putting out a single and you're trying to lead up to an album. Like, it's not even like that anymore. All the rules have changed. Like, you know, Beyonce will just drop an album on Friday randomly. Like, right. You know, there's no real promotion anymore. Like, everything. I was just talking to Usher about that this weekend. I was hanging out with Usher all weekend, and we were just talking about how the rules have just changed so much. It's like it's like the Twilight Zone. It's like it's something that we, you know, from the 90s. It's just like, wow, this is a whole new day. So I was inspired, though, by what's going on now and the way that these kids are utilizing the internet to just promote themselves and put out their independent projects and stuff, and how there aren't any real rules anymore. And you could you could do a video with your iPhone and it's cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I was like, all right, let me just start releasing some singles. So Icarus was really, it's the first one. I shot the video. Got the video coming. It's the first one, and I just want to just start putting out Ryan Toby content, and then let's see. You know what I mean? I mean, if the people start to demand, you need to drop a whole album, then maybe I will. If people are just enjoying each single, each little mini project, if you will, then I'll do it that way. Like, I don't really have a plan. I'm just kind of going with the flow, man, and it feels really good.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love the song. Off mic, I mentioned that I was kind of looking in on seeing where some of the kids are now, and I saw that you just like literally released the song. I think it's amazing. I definitely encourage the listeners to check that out. What was the inspiration to writing that song? In the song, you mentioned that your only one has left you, and a lot of these references to Icarus, who we all know flew close to the sun and burnt himself. So was that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, actually, Icarus didn't burn himself. His father. So the story goes that Icarus's father gave him wings made of wax, and told him, be careful to not fly too close to the sun, or your wings will melt and you'll fall. And out of pride, Icarus, he wanted to fly as close as he could to the sun, and so obviously the wings melted and he fell. So the song is about pride. You know what I mean? And I was just feeling really artistic one day. Like I wanted to kind of just be a little more poetic and not just do a normal, oh girl, I made a mistake, I love you, take me back.
Right.
Like I just didn't want to, I wanted to just be a little different. I'm inspired a lot of times by like movies. When I watch movies, I'm always inspired by the writing. Like there's some, so for me, my checklist for a movie is the writing, the plot has to be dope. The writing and the just the pace and the tempo of the writing has to be really smart for me. And then after that, acting, and then after that, special effects. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So if the storyline and the plot line isn't solid, I'm not into it. If the writing isn't solid, I'm not into it. So with that being said, I forget which movie it was I was watching. It may have even been a trailer for a film, and I can't remember which one it was, but one of the lines that the guy, the villain, I guess, says to the cop, he says something like, you don't know what's coming or something. He said, what's coming is a mighty hurricane, and all you have is a little umbrella or something like that. He said, I'm a mighty hurricane, and you're just a little umbrella. And I was like, wow, I'm a tiny umbrella in a hurricane. And that first line came to me. Hurricane, hurricane, I'm a bulletproof vest made of cellophane, cellophane, cellophane. I'm no good, I'm no good, I'm no good since my baby left me. And then it just started flowing out of me. And then I think I heard the Icarus name in another film. I was watching something else, and the guy was talking, and he was trying to give the dude some advice, like, man, remember the story of Icarus. And when I saw it, I was like, wow, Icarus, that's a crazy story. You know what I mean? And so I put those two together, and I was drawing from I just wanted to write something really heartfelt and emotional and kind of dark about really, letting your pride cause you to lose the best thing you ever had.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can't wait to see the video. Is there a premiere date for it currently?
Well, right now, my manager and I, we were dealing with some issues with the Vivo thing. So when you're doing it, I'm learning this whole independent game too. I'm so used to the record company handling all of that. But now that I'm doing it myself, I'm seeing all that goes into it. So we had a little issue with the Vivo account, but now that we got that together, we're looking to have the video up probably within the next couple of weeks.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is there any like a website that listeners can go to find more of your content?
Just right now, it's my Spotify as well as my my SoundCloud link, just Ryan Toby, and those are the two places where I'm going to really be releasing my music.
I'm a tiny umbrella in a hurricane, hurricane, hurricane. I'm a bulletproof vest made of cellophane, cellophane, cellophane. I'm no good, I'm no good, I'm no good